everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, September the 25th. Let's throw up the field for race number 7 at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. 5.5 furlongs. These are Indiana breds running in a $55,000 handicap. We have a field of 10. The morning line favors the number 2 Latigo, who earned a big number, returning off of a lengthy layoff, beating 3 of these last time out. All his dirt sprints are good.
Yeah, they've really figured out that what he really wants to do is sprint down the dirt, Dan. Not only the win off the layoff last time, but his final dirt sprint of 2023. He runs one of those races in here. I'm not sure this field can beat him.
He's won 8 of 14 lifetime at Horseshoe, Indianapolis, and he has wonderful tactical speed. As we throw up the time form US pace projector, the 2 Latigo could be in a really nice position, as his uncoupled stablemate, the 1 Lucky's Joy, should show early speed, as should the 9 Zappanet. Latigo just figures to get another good trip.
Yeah, he's got really nice tactical speed. He'll be forward in this race, but he doesn't really need the lead to be effective. It'll be interesting, though, to see how this pace plays out, because it kind of feels like, I know the 9 does have some speed if they want to use it, but he's also been effective without being aggressively ridden early. And that Lucky's Joy, he's fast from the route.
If the pace is hot, keep an eye on the 7, Win Me Over, who has the LP flag over his chiclet, which indicates he has the fastest time form US late pace rating, and he has won stakes races against Indiana breds from off the pace in the past. Let's start things off with Lucky's Joy, who was beaten by Latigo last time out. He draws the rail. He's going to go. I'm not sure the pace was necessarily fast last time out, but it was contested, and maybe Lucky's Joy will have an easier time getting to the frontier. He just has a lot to prove against this caliber of competition, although 2 back, he ran pretty well.
Yeah, he did. It does feel like, maybe this race is just going to be a little bit too tough for him, especially based on that most recent start, Dan, because you're right. I mean, he did have to contest it, but he was in against a couple of these horses, and they just let him go at a huge price. Like, they knew he wasn't competitive, and he really wasn't competitive in there. But he's got a lot of speed. 5.5 furlongs does feel like it's his best distance, and I do think there's a chance maybe he's fastest early in this field.
It took the connections a while to get Latigo back to the races in 2024, but it was worth the wait. Let's watch his most recent start, going 3/4 of a mile against state-sired allowance horses, and he just sat on the outside in a very comfortable position. He takes the lead away from Molly's Town, who was odds on and is also back in Wednesday's race of the day, and he just keeps on going.
Yeah, just the way that he won this race, considering it was his first start back from a long layoff, and that Molly's Town, who had been in racing shape and was a huge favorite in here. I mean, Latigo handled that horse so easily in that spot. And then you start going through his other races when they sprint him on dirt. Man, it feels like he's going to be hard to beat here.
Molly's Town was cutting back in distance off a couple of route races, one on the turf, one going 2 turns against Indiana breds. This is a horse that can be had at short prices. He was beaten at 1-10, 4 starts back. He was 2-5 in the race we just saw. I thought he was kind of tight in between horses on the turn and bounced around a little bit, maybe forced to go a little bit early. All in all, the trip was fine. He cut the corner, turning for home, was just second best.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it too, Dan. I mean, as I watched the race develop with the backstretch, I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe this horse is going to have a real excuse in here at 2-5. But as it ultimately played out, I thought the trip really worked. He came clear in the stretch. He made a brief lead. He was no match for Latigo. He's going to have to run a lot better than that this time. In his defense, he does have a race or two that's going to give him a real chance in here, even if the good Latigo shows up. But he better run that race if Latigo does show up here.
The 4 is Scotty's On Edge, and he looked good winning on turf last time out, going 5/8 of a mile when rating from off the pace. He was involved in a hot pace dispute on dirt 2 starts back, and maybe that compromised his chances. On occasion, he does show speed, and maybe getting back out to 5.5, he'll be forwardly placed. I think he might be slightly better on turf, but he's a proven commodity on dirt and isn't out of it at 8-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that, Dan. I mean, he might be a better turf horse, but he's got some dirt races that suggest he's okay on this surface, and he does have some speed. I'm not sure that he's a horse who can clear off in here. And so if he gets, hooked up sort of contesting things, that's probably not going to be ideal for this horse, but he's far from impossible at a fair price.
The 5 is Mr. Chaos, a rock-solid Indiana bred with over $600,000 in earnings. Now, he's going to turn back in distance here. He has run well cutting back in the past, but this is a substantial 3-furlong turn back. Here's his most recent start, the Empire Handicap at 1 1/16. He's off the pace. He angles out into the stretch, and he churns on to finish second.
Yeah, he's pretty game here, sort of grinding on. He's only second best when all is said and done. Boy, this is a really difficult turn back for a horse to make from 1 1/16 all the way back to 5.5. It's just not that easy to do. And he's just a horse who's going to have to summon the best race of his life, I think, if he's going to win this thing.
Healing Waters, the number 6, tried to get forward last time out in a race won in gate-to-wire fashion, but I wonder if he's a little bit dirtied up. The race before that was a sloppy track. The time before that, it was on turf, and the race before that, he ran just fine to get beaten a nose over a wet track. He's making his third start off of a short layoff. I think maybe you could make a case for him on the bottom of single race exotics best more than a win candidate.
Yeah, I sort of looked at him that way too. I mean, ultimately he doesn't have one race on his card that's going to make him, a serious contender for a win in this race. I think he does have the right running style here, though. And so maybe, third off the little layoff here, you'll get a top performance out of him. He better deliver one of those, though, because he looks like he's in pretty tough.
Win Me Over finished 4th last time out in the Latigo race that we showed you, trying to rally from off the pace, and it just didn't work out for him that day. When the pace is strong, he often will kick on well in the stretch. I'm just not sure it's going to be there for him here.
Yeah, and it's not easy to be a closer going 5.5 furlongs on dirt. Everything needs to go your way. You need to get the right trip. You need to get the right pace set up. I suspect that that's what they're hoping for here. They're going to sort of sit back and try to make one run at a price.
Commander Storm is the number 8, and he's won his last 2 dirt sprints. The problem is those Beyer speed figures just came back a little bit light. They tried to stretch him out around 2 turns last time out, and it was kind of a disastrous performance at 44-1. Back to this distance helps, probably back to this class level helps. Now he has to prove he's fast enough.
Yeah, his last 3 races at this 5.5 furlong distance are actually really good. And so maybe that ultimately this is what he really wants, Dan, but he's another one facing a really tough cutback against a field that just might be too good for him.
Zappin' comes out of a 4th level allowance for Indianabreds going 3/4. Let's watch that race. Note he was the favorite. Note he had the lead turning into the stretch, and note that he gets tired and is going to get run down. A little bit disappointed here that he wasn't able to hold on.
Yeah, I kind of wish this race wasn't on his card, because to me, he's the most interesting long shot in the race. Save this performance where he just got loose on the lead as the favorite, and he's really no match at the end. This is not a good loss for Zappin'. That being said, his prior form, I think, makes him a little bit interested in here at a price, because there are excuses to be made for some of his races. He doesn't need to be on it. They've been very aggressive with him in his last 2 starts, but they don't need to ride him that way in here. To me, he was the long shot I'll try to use somewhere, even though I hate his most recent start.
The Chip Off the Old Block has a little bit of back class. He's actually graded stakes placed in his career. He's an open stakes winner. He's performed well against Indianabreds. And last time out at Colonial going 6.5, he just was wired in a slow-paced race where they ran 1-2 around the track. And another one of the also-rans, the 5th place horse, came back to place in a 2nd-level allowance at Delaware with a 75 Beyer. So I think he's been facing some pretty good competition out of town, and maybe he was just compromised by trip in his last couple of races.
Yeah, I feel like he's an interesting horse in here too. I mean, he doesn't win that often anymore. You got to go all the way back to last April to get to his most recent victory. But man, he's still showing up. He's still running competitive figures. He's got the right running style for this race. We'll see if he can work something out from the outside post for a really good trainer. This is a horse I think he's pretty easy to use somewhere.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Wednesday race of the day. Mike, you're going with Latigo. He is simply the horse to beat.
Yeah, I just think he's way the horse to beat in here. I didn't really want to have a lot of money in against him. I am going to try to get that 9 in there in the exacta, though, at a price tag.
I wonder if the 2 prior route efforts dulled Molly's Town's speed a little bit as she cut back in distance last time out. I want them to be very aggressive with this horse out of the gate this time. Try to get the jump on Latigo. Try to get the jump on everybody turning for home. He does have some figures that make him competitive with these horses. 2-9, 3-10 for Mike, 3-2, 4-10 for me. Latigo, the horse to beat in Wednesday's race of the day, the 7th at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. Good luck.